I start my day with a good old cup of joe. Then I brush my teeth. Then I let my dog out to run around. When letting my dog out, I felt the urge to do something almost like I needed something. I finished my morning routine by eating the most important meal of the day, breakfast. The office building across the street from my house needed employees, and I don't have a job. I put two and two together and started my resume. I worked on my resume over the night and got up early the following day to finish it. I walked into the office building with hope in my soul. Luckily, the boss gave me the job after asking some questions. I couldn't believe I actually got the job, and so I partied like there was no tomorrow. The following day, I found my house a mess. There were beer bottles and confetti, and my boss was going to be here any minute to do a house inspection. I hurried and cleaned the house. Once I got done cleaning the house and doing my morning routine, I waited for his arrival. After 2 hours, I was worried that he might have gotten hurt somewhere, so I cut on the news to check. I watched the news and heard about this guy named Harriet Beasley getting killed in his home last night. That couldn't have been the boss. My friend Junior called later that day and told me that I have a drinking problem because I left my house leaving beer bottles in my couch cushions 3 nights ago, and he just found out. Then I thought to myself, I do have a drinking problem. Maybe I should get some help before this gets out of hand. After checking with Junior, I set up an appointment with Mr. Michael. He is a 5-star psychiatrist who has helped many different people with a diversity of different problems. At 8 p.m. I arrived at his establishment and walked in. Mr. Michael greeted me with open arms, and he was a little pushy when I tried to tell him my problem. He told me to remember his mantra, 1, 2, 3, alcohol doesn't affect me. This mantra stuck with me throughout the rest of the night. I woke up the next day with the mantra in my head, because today was apparently booze day at the office. I walked outside after my routine and was shocked to see construction workers taking down the office building. I asked what was going on, and apparently, Harriet Beasley was my boss's name. Since he died, no one wanted to take his place, so the mayor ordered them to take down the building. I went back to my house, still mourning over the loss of my boss, and sat down on the couch. It turns out the police found out that Mr. Michael assassinated Harriet in his house because Harriet framed him for fraud. Now I wonder if I should have taken advice from this crook, and I forgot the mantra right after I heard the news, even though it was in my head the whole time. Jacob slammed his door loudly. He couldn't believe the nerve of his father. Moments earlier, Jacob had gone into the kitchen of his parents' house where he lived. All he wanted to do was eat, watch television, and surf the internet on his laptop. His father, however, would have none of that. His son was in his mid-20s, jobless, and still living at home. He demanded that Jacob clean the living room, as were his regular duties, and asked him in a rather gruff tone if he had gotten a job yet. A question to which he already knew the answer was no. Jacob, tired of hearing the same thing from his father daily, stormed out of the kitchen, leaving behind an open refrigerator and his laptop. As he left, he yelled obscenities at his father and said he wished that he would just die already, so he could be with his mother in hell. Jacob's mother Molly had died earlier in the year when the car his father was driving hit a patch of ice and skidded into a ravine. Jacob constantly berated his father, whom he hated for, as he put it, killing his mother. There never was a solid father-son bond between him and his father to begin with, and his mother's death destroyed what little there was. Jacob, still fuming and tired from staying up all night playing his online games, went to sleep. When he woke up, he found the house curiously silent. His father usually was noisy at all hours. If it wasn't his snoring, it was the sounds of him watching television. Jacob ventured out of his room and called out to see if anyone was there. He poked around all the rooms until he got to the kitchen, where he saw his laptop closed, but still on. Angry at the thought of his father messing with his computer, he snatched it up and turned on the television. Opening it, he booted it back up and went about seeing if his father had messed with anything. There on his desktop was a curious file titled dad.txt that he was sure wasn't there earlier. Curiosity getting the better of him, he opened it. In moments, he was filled with a deep sense of regret. The document, which started off with such things as "I'm sorry" and "I love you" and "goodbye," was his father's suicide note. It described how his wife's death strained him, and how Jacob's constant remarks about him and the accident were just too much for him to bear anymore.